Hello and welcome to Thrive. I'm back in the studio here in Cambridge today with three wonderful guests. So today's topics are, we've seen a programme recently on ITV and it's called Brexit, the inside story of that night and the night that changed Britain. Very interesting.
I just wanna thrive here, grow into my space and boom. Don't just wanna survive here. We're gonna see each other through. The world is for me and you. I just wanna thrive here, grow into my space and boom. Don't just wanna survive here. We're gonna see each other through.
Hi, welcome.
Okay, so our guests are Remi, Oderinde. Hi, I'm Remi. And thirdly, Sarah, Adedji.
Hi, hello.
Welcome. I'm sure you've seen that programme then. So why are we bringing up this topic of Brexit? Well, it's officially 10 years have passed now. So have you had flashbacks? Come on, tell us about it.
Oh, yes.
It's amazing that it's been 10 years already.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. There's been a lot of changes in the UK.
Yep, definitely.
Thinking back to that night, what was your reaction? I was shocked. I was like, really? Am I dreaming? Is this real? I just couldn't believe it.
Yep. What did you think? I think because we didn't have a exit poll, nobody was aware or even slightly suspicious of what was going to happen. Until that final moment when I think it was 48%, about 48, 49 point something versus 51. It was so close, like practically 50-50, and it could have gone either way. You know, they couldn't say for ages.
That's right, yeah. And what was your feeling?
Well, I was in the middle because I felt we didn't have enough information to get through the vote. What was actually happening? Who's the better side? Like, I needed more information. I didn't want them to just repeat the same points over and over again. I wanted to explain the policies in full, so that way I could make an informed decision rather than a really basic decision.
Yeah, that's true.
And like, what's the positive? What's the negative of either decision?
Yeah, that's right. You got it.
To be fair, I can't really remember back then, but I remember feeling heartbroken. I was only 15. Yeah, I wasn't old enough to vote. I was hoping that people who were older would vote, that they would save our future. You know, there's a lot of young people who are very informed, who knew what would happen if we left. They knew that our future would be impacted, but really it was depending on the older generation to secure our future, and only a few of them voted, and they say have only got 20 years left potentially of their life.
That's
and we've
true.
got 50, 60 years left. And then I just remember waking up and seeing it everywhere, and we were just heartbroken. Like, so many young people, we just couldn't believe it. Like, oh my god, like, we've grown up, and you know, our parents have said, don't worry, your life's getting better, you're getting jobs, houses, this and that, and all of a sudden, overnight, I felt like that's all gone.
So thinking about that then, I get it. It kind of limited your choices because you're only 16. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. So talking about Brexit, but when you talk about prime ministers and parliaments and voting, you know, you can vote at 18, but Brexit maybe should have been able to include younger voters because you understood it. It's obviously part of your future. It's a shame that the voting age was 18.
Oh, definitely. If we were allowed to decide, like if we can have GCSEs, decide which university we're going to, surely we can decide what's going to affect us 20 years into our future. With that referendum, I felt like, how do I explain it? They're saying, oh, we're going to do it for you. And I'm just thinking, no, it's a gamble. We're placing everything on you guys and seeing what's going to happen after this. There wasn't a plan. Like you said, like there wasn't enough information. It's just, yep, this is what's going to happen. You decide yes or no. Are we staying or are we leaving?
I remember that so clearly. And I remember them on the night. I think the Prime Minister at the time, that was David Cameron.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He thought that people were going to remain. But actually, it just backfired on him.
Yeah.
And he resigned as Prime Minister shortly after. So people reflecting on the decision to Brexit, I think people were just kind of fed up. There are too many problems. But problems like what? So people in the country trying to... So yeah, thinking about Boris Johnson with that bus which had saving 300 million on the NHS for the NHS, but has that actually happened? Mm-hmm. It's a shame really. Because people, a lot of the media, they were giving opinions, but it wasn't the facts and all the consequences of what we actually leave or remain. I don't think that was clear enough. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm thinking about that bus. I remember I was watching a programme and there's a guy on the news and they're in the back of the bus and they were like, actually, are you going to save that money? And it felt like the answers weren't equivocal. And they're saying, well, at the time he knew it wasn't true, which is just so dangerous. And you think of the impact of that and the costs and the impact on people. And they almost think it's funny and take it seriously, like it's a joke. It's like, English humour, but no, it's not funny.
No. You know, the politicians treated it like a joke. But how were we then supposed to take it seriously? That's why I was so confused, like, which way do I vote? What's going to happen? I would like them to have said, like, this will happen if this is the result, and this would happen this way, but we never got that information.
It's true. But let me ask you a question then. I clearly remember watching TV, people wondering what's going to happen. I remember seeing the bus arrive, and I looked at it and I thought, hang on a sec, are you serious? I know that the NHS is not part of the EU. It's obviously the national, our British tax pays for it. So why is there a link between that and the NHS? And let's say people are a bit naive about politics, not as comprehensively informed, just point to that bus and say, yeah, it's easy, there you go. We're going to vote to leave because we know it's going to save money for the NHS.
Yeah, I think because really before Brexit, the country was paying a lot of money towards the EU. They were paying millions, but then if we left, we obviously wouldn't have to pay that. So they're trying to say, look, we can save this money, we'll put it towards the NHS. Will help the country. Obviously, now looking back, it's completely different. But people were thinking, okay, we don't have to pay it to the EU. But really, you forget about the benefits the EU had, like giving us money for the farmers and all the different bits and pieces. That information wasn't there at the time.
Buildings, new buildings getting built, you can see that. So did you believe that 350 million claim back then about the NHS?
I don't know if I believed it. I'd hoped. You're thinking, okay, we aren't paying that. So then that is more money for us. You would think that would happen. That's
true.
Yeah, so it's funny. Because you've got money. The politicians didn't care about the results. They didn't care about what happened afterwards. It benefited them either way. When I was watching their programme, and then seeing like, we've got a party and we're just waiting for the results and there's a leave and a remain party. And they were saying, it's quite pessimistic here now. Nobody's believing that we're going to leave. Everyone thinks we're going to remain. Really, really interesting to see that. They just on camera. They're going, I don't think that's going to happen. People then started to be really panicked and they think, oh my God, okay, actually we're leaving now. And then you can see the moment, like the psychological moment, like the panic and everything changing.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, it really, really was. And then you think, oh my, okay, so we're not receiving this money. a lot of older people thought, oh, brilliant, this money we're going to have. But then you've also got people going, but I've paid my taxes for 50 years, so into the NHS, so surely it should be a better service.
It's absolutely full of rubbish. I was amazed. Loads of people believed Nigel Farage.
Ugh, yeah.
And about what he says about the money. But
come
who's in
on.
charge of the finance? We just don't see the invoice for 350 million. So it's a question of accountability. I'm sorry, people have to take responsibility to vote for Brexit. And now we're gutted. We've lost professional people. Staff have left.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we've lost privileges. Now think about the travel situation. We've got these mega long queues, all sorts of things. Do you know, I miss that. Being able to just go, you know, through the passport queue, I miss it. All that money wasted as well. Something funny though, it's a hilarious story I'm going to share. So you had blue and red to represent Remain, and blue was Leave. I think either way, the colours were, I think it was red was Leave. Yeah, anyway, you know what I mean, red and blue. And I remember Cornwall, that area, was just full of blue. And I thought, why did they vote Brexit? And it's got a high percentage of people who are applying for EU funding. So the council down there, they get a lot of funding. For example, the Eden project and tourism. Obviously, before the EU, they were really struggling. But they've applied for EU funding. They got funding every year. They kept winning the bids. So the EU were really supportive of that area. Yeah, and it's obviously linked to the climate and our future. And so, yeah, they funded a lot of things. So when they voted to leave the EU, people were celebrating. So the next project, they applied for the funding. And so they applied for EU funding afterwards. And they're like, oh, hang on a sec. No, you can't apply for it anymore because of Brexit. And then it dawned on them. They didn't think it through, that small thing about funding. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's hilarious. I just think that's so funny.
Yeah, like, but why wasn't that information given? They should have been able to use that, and people should have warned them.
Well, when you look at the signpost, you can see clearly when it's an EU funding project. You can see in Liverpool as well, at Albert Dock. When you look around there, it's a beautiful area, and the King's Dock, and you can see the EU funded that.
Yeah.
But
Like
the
so-
money...
But the money from the EU, like, we've obviously had to give money in for them to get money back, right?
You're right, but it's just not enough to cover it, not as much as other countries. If you remember back in that time when Greek were bankrupt, their economy was terrible, the EU tried to support them, and obviously they went back to a thriving economy, and that's because of the EU economy.
Yeah, it's like the EU is getting the money in, and they're thinking, okay, you're struggling, we'll support you here, we'll support you there, but they're supporting all the countries within the European Union. Yeah, it's like a bit like a bank, I suppose. They're like a trading company. They're an economy in themselves. But that information wasn't given, was it?
There you are.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. You know, you put some money in, you get more money back. So, you know, reflecting on the news, they seem very hooked on Remain or Brexit. And I think that influenced people, trying to persuade people. It's a problem. If we got the facts, then we can make a decision. Okay, and we can envision the future. So you flick between the channels, BBC One, ITV, Channel 4. And also the newsreaders as well. Didn't expect the atmosphere. When Nigel Farage said we'd won, you could see his body language and everything.
Completely changed.
Wow. And I'll tell you why. He was a member of the EU Parliament.
Yeah.
He's an MEP, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And the same as Anne, what's her last name? She's just murdered recently.
Oh, Widdicombe.
Widdicombe. It's interesting, 10 years later, it's ironic. So Nigel Farage, he was so against the EU. I'm sorry to bring it up. His children are German, is that right? They're not fully British anyway. So what's his philosophy? You know, what's influencing them?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've got the right answer for this. But in the hierarchy, so his dream, he wanted to dream of being a prime minister, but he couldn't. So he wanted to be an MEP. So to be involved in Parliament or something, or the council, the MEP's Parliament, then you can become prime minister. So that was his dream. So 10 years, you know, he's got the Reform Party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It felt like it was a massive foreshadowing, you know, like back then with the Leave and everything that's happened. You know, they were using people's thoughts of immigration and the negativity towards that, and they thought, okay, if we leave the EU, we block the borders. And they weren't thinking about the security and everything and all the positives that the EU gave us. They thought, oh, okay, like, brilliant, we're going to close our borders, we're not going to get anybody in. And I think Nigel Farage was one of the people who led that campaign, really, against immigration.
Of course. Yeah, there's obviously been bad situations, but come on, let's think about what the positives. What have the positives been of Brexit since then?
I don't know. I don't think I've got
to be.
any. So last night I was having a little Google. I was thinking, like, okay, what are the positives? And I'm trying to find them, and I couldn't find anything. Well, so there was a new law set up when we left the EU. And someone said recently that we've lost different bits of, or 600 pieces of EU legislation, but then they haven't been properly replaced yet by, like, British law. But some of the positives, people were saying that for some of these, when they have then been replaced, they have been updated. But you've got to be really careful online now with fake news and fake information. And like we were saying back then, realising that actually the media are influencing our decisions massively. We didn't really realise everything, and we couldn't make an informed, independent decision. We have to rely on the information, what we're being told. But it's harder in a deaf world. We're obviously basing that information on subtitles and the English language, and how are we getting this information?
In BSL as well.
Yeah, it was so rarely interpreted into sign language. So for a lot of the deaf community, we were sort of worse off. We didn't have access to that information in comparison to the hearing community.
The deaf are definitely behind because of access issues. But some hearing people are clueless about politics, and they feel the same. It's no different. You know, I remember my hearing friends were like pro-Brexit, and they believed the NHS thing, and I told them it was rubbish. But we used to argue about it. Mm-hmm. And I realised that actually that information thing affects all of us. You know, communities are divided. They don't trust each other. Obviously, you know, did that affect you? I just had to keep my boundaries.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share another nugget of my experience. So I couldn't work in France because of the EU. You know, I didn't need a visa. I didn't need a visa to live there. So the benefit was it gave me such a brilliant experience and great opportunities. How old was I? I moved to France. I was 25, perfect age, full of opportunity and ready to learn. I came back to England. And my CV was just full of great experiences. And when I went for job interviews, people would recruit me because of that EU experience that I got. Without that, I wouldn't have that experience, you know. You know, my opportunities were improved because of it.
Yeah. But I know the opposite argument to that would be, well, you could still travel out of the EU. You could still go to Australia or America or Canada. You know, it doesn't have to be other parts of the EU.
It's true. I mean, you're absolutely right. I did 1 year visa in America, that's true. But, you know, the EU is quite close, isn't it? You don't have to worry about visas. You don't have to pay for anything. You You've got the same kind of laws and restrictions, same human rights. And that's another thing. Women's rights in the EU, I really believe in that compared to here. You know, at Brexit, I'm kind of worried about human rights. Are we going to keep these rights? You know, obviously we're women, aren't we? Now, because of Brexit 10 years ago, I think we'll learn from this. Will we learn from it? Will future generations learn? Actually, it wasn't a good decision for us. And it's had a huge impact. And, you know, going back to talking about visas, when we're part of an EU, we're partners and we're thinking about travelling. And so, for example, if a plane was delayed, you could claim money back, and that was linked to the EU. I believe that's right. I'm not sure. I didn't know that.
But again, the opposite argument to that sort of would be, you know, if the rules were suitable, we'd have adopted them anyway. So we don't have to be part of the EU to still have these same rules.
Okay, that's a fair point.
But I am an audiologist and recently went on a course, and they had a lot of information about GDPR. They were talking about the EU, and they were saying how we had to create our own policies and laws that we had to follow, because previously the EU had it. We just followed theirs. So then as soon as we left, we had to create some rules for the UK. We couldn't adopt the EU ones. We had to see what ours were. Obviously, we could use them to like follow slightly, but the same protection wasn't there. We didn't have the EU protection. We didn't have all the different parts that were provided to us previously, so we had to create our own way. Yeah, so after Brexit happened, I know that they've had to change the names of some of these laws and legislations. Sometimes it's just the name that's changed and they've kept the content of the laws the same. But it is difficult because we've followed it for so long. It's the same as, like, say, following religions. Some people say that's good to have, but then other people say, oh, I don't want to follow that. It's based on your personal choice. It can be based on your personal decision. So I can see why some people wanted to leave Brexit. They wanted to make their own decision of what they could and couldn't do. Okay, sorry, I'm just going to hold you guys there a second. Any viewers, if you've got any comments on the positives or the negatives of Brexit, please let me know. I can see your comments here. We've got one comment that says, actually, I think we're worse off because of Brexit now. So, for example, it costs £3.60 for a stamp to post to France. So, yeah, that's just one of the negativities. But how do we know if that's a fact? How do we know if that's actually because of Brexit? That's all I'd say. Well, obviously, we are out of the EU, and in January 2020, we were out anyway. Obviously, I know the decision was made 10 years ago, but it didn't physically happen till January 2020. Then, obviously, we had COVID.
Big impact. A big impact.
But who's to say is the effect and the impact from COVID, or was it from Brexit?
Good point.
How do we actually know it's from this or it's from that?
Very true. I've got no answer for that. When you look at the economics, an economist would be able to answer that.
Yeah, but you have to go right down a deep dive. I know there will be people looking at this information.
It's true. That's so true.
I know we are worse off. Things are more expensive now. We've got to pay a lot more on import tax. So trade is more expensive. But we aren't the only country who are more expensive in the world. So again, it's looking back and going, is it because of Brexit? Is it our problem or a world problem?
So I can answer that one. Travel expenses, trains. Maybe not bus, but definitely trains. We're the most expensive in Europe. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah.
Europe's cheap. Last minute's cheap. In this country, it's ridiculous. You have to book in advance.
Yeah.
And do you know what? It's probably linked to privatisation, I think. Interesting. Looking at the NHS. People changing to private, is that to do with Brexit?
I feel like Brexit was the foundation. The foundation for different things to sort of happen. Looking back now, you know, with the bus and then saying they're going to spend all this money on the NHS, you know, was that just a bit of a soft launch? See how people are going to take it. How are people going to react? Are they happy for things to be changed? So, you know, we've left the EU, they're not funding the NHS or they're not funding other bits and pieces. We can use this money. And maybe they were then thinking, what are we going to do in 5 years, 10 years, 15? How can we change things? You know, shall we make different bits and pieces private? Shall we start treatments, dental practices, this sort of thing, and start switching from NHS to private?
Yep.
But we don't know the sort of the run-on effect from this. I feel like when Brexit happened, you know, we weren't really expecting to leave. We hadn't got the legalities in place. We hadn't got anything like that set up. There were lots of professionals within the NHS who then had to leave. Then COVID happened. And that was so stressful. It was mad.
I know, I've got it. So I've got an extra person who's commented. Aaron. Makepeace. I love that last name, Makepeace. So he says the EU Commission is not democratic. Recently, the EU Parliament against a new phone spying law, but the Commission passed it. But the Commission passed it anyway. Do members value democracy or not?
Ooh. We're going to always have that problem. Every country has their own rules, their own parliaments, their own debates. Some win, some don't. I don't think that's necessarily linked to the EU and to Brexit. We would have that anyway. We'd have our internal battles.
Yeah.
Same like the Deaf Act, you know, the BSL. Or
yeah. 1880, same as Milan 1880.
Yeah, it's the same as then. You know, people were disagreeing with what to do. And it was for the deaf community, but hearing people decided. And really, there have been changes back and forth, but it's the same with the EU. Like, are we going to have a referendum to say, do we want to get back in it?
All right. So I've got the last question for you guys before we bring this topic to a close. So the last question then. So 4 more years from 2016, and it was 2020 when we officially left.
What do you mean?
Well, you know, so my question is, in 2030, what will it look like? I don't know. Will we have poverty? Can we be able to fund will there be loads more potholes?
Ooh. So I'm going to make a generalisation. I think a lot of people decided to go for Brexit because of following the sovereignty.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of people just thinking, no, we want our independence. We don't need anybody to control us. We've got our partnership here. We'll be fine. We're thinking, yeah, Britain can cope on its own. We don't need to have all these links with the other countries. But obviously, if you think about the history of Britain and the colonisation and our sort of networking with the world, it's strange to go, actually, we don't need you anymore. Our whole history is based on us working with other countries. So the decisions that were made 10 years ago, we are still seeing the effect of them now. Services are becoming delayed, like you said, roads are becoming dangerous. You know, there's not enough protection for us in this country. So I feel like it's becoming more dystopian here.
King Henry VIII would love you. He loved networking across Europe. He loved it. He loved Europe. He loved different countries. He didn't want to be isolated. Yeah. So that's why he married foreign women.
Yeah.
But there you go. We better draw this topic to a close about Brexit. Okay, let's think positive. So we're going to change topic now. Another sad issue, actually. We're talking about the World Cup 2026. On Wednesday night, it was a semi-final, of course, and so feelings, everybody?
Disappointed.
We all feel a bit low, don't we?
So can I say something? You know the song "Who Run the World"? Girls, we won. You know,
Yes.
the women's team have won. We're already there, so come on, we should celebrate that.
Sing the song.
Who run the world, girls? Who run the world, girls? You know that one?
Who run the world, girls?
Come on, we've won already. But I do get, unfortunately for the men's team, we haven't got there. Yeah, it's like tradition, isn't it? Honestly, the men's can't win. They just can't. So that's like, I was watching, I felt like I would believe it when I could see it.
Feel the same?
And I was watching it and I was stressed out, I tell you. I was screaming. I was like, come on, why are we losing the ball? Why are we becoming so defensive? Like, what is going on? Push back, attack. Come on. Yeah, I feel like, I've saying for years, like, you watch them play and they're just so calm and they just take it slow. And it was only recently, I think, within the last 3 games, they had more power. They played a lot better. You could see that. But I think because they didn't build that momentum from the start, they didn't have that. They were just quite chilled about it. Then all of a sudden, it was a shift to 100%. But how? And then we've got Argentina. Do you have the
Well,
country
actually,
sign?
I've seen in football teams, they sign like for the stripes.
Oh,
But
okay.
I always did the country sign as Argentina like this. But yeah, it's kind of similar.
Yeah. But the way they were playing, and obviously they've got one of the best players, was Bellingham. I think they felt threatened by him. You could see them and the way they interacted. Then the coach became, okay, hold on. Just stay there. Let's stick with 1-0. We need to stick. We've got that. We need to hold it.
No,
And they made so many replacements and subs, and it just didn't make sense.
30 minutes left. We knew we have to wake up.
Exactly. Anything can happen.
We have to do something. It's not brave
Yeah,
enough.
Yeah. Because if you remember, with the Brazilian match, they scored at the last minute. So you can't rest on your laurels for 30 minutes. You can't play defensively. Not with Argentina, who are already attacking and attacking.
Yeah, I got to applaud the goalkeeper. You know, it could have been 4 or 5,
Yes.
but for him,
Yeah, and
Jed Spence.
who tackled as well. Brilliant tackle. But I think maybe we became cocky. 1-0 with 30 minutes left. Of course something's going to
A
happen.
question for you guys then. Do you blame the manager? Yes. But I also blame the players. They just weren't hungry enough to win. You compare it to the women's football team, they seem, I don't know, they won the 2024, they won the Euros. Yeah. 2022, yeah. They're like more hungry for victory. In women's football as well, it's less spotlighted. It's more spotlighted for the men. It just
Yeah.
seems, it's not equivalent. And they earn millions of pounds.
Yeah.
What's the point? Running around fighting each other. The women's more about getting on with the game. I remember in the 70s and 80s, obviously before you were born, Sarah, of course. Of course you were born. And you see real men. I used to love the old days of football. And now I look at them and it's like...
Yeah, they're pansies, really. They're so sensitive to everything. Oh, I've been touched. I've been hit. Just a light little touch. Like, come on.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's just like, it feels like, like a fake, like Toy Story. When the child comes into the room and everyone goes to sleep. It felt like that. Like, what was going on? Stopping. I felt like England could have won it if we've had the chances to win, but we didn't use them. They became complacent. Yeah, They did.
Yeah.
They felt like 1-0 was enough, and it wasn't.
So when they lost the game and the referee blew the whistle, my mum went back to 1966 because it's exactly 60 years later, and we were hoping 60 years later we're going to do it. We're singing "It's Coming Home, It's Coming Home." We're all singing that, but look what happened. That dream is fading away.
Yep.
We're going to put it, in 2030, I think we'll be able to get that memory out of the box again.
Like I said, it's become a tradition, isn't it? The men won't do anything until the last possible minute. I'm not putting my expectations up there.
Do you know, I think we should fund more women's football.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. The women's deserve equal pay. The men get millions. I think it's a waste of time. Yeah, just focus on the women. Yeah.
And also, I feel like I'm chronically online. I'm on TikTok or Instagram, and I felt like young people were getting involved. To quote Hamilton, we need to be in the room where it happens. You know, we could see this happening already. The way the coach, I don't know, they needed to make better decisions. You can't say it's coming home again with Thomas Tuchel, but he wasn't doing anything. They should have done like this and this, and they should have made other bits happen. And if we had better management of the team, that would have helped with making the decisions. I feel like we could have won. We really could have done. It just didn't. But I also don't know. Did it feel rigged? Have things happened for a reason? Yeah. Like, there's so many things. You know, like, why is Trump involved with the games?
Who knows?
Like, what about the taking off the red card? How has that been taken away? It feels like it's become quite political.
A couple of days ago, I was having a look on Instagram, and it said, shall we carry on with FIFA? Because, you know, with the new boss there, he's corrupt, and they've got plenty of evidence of that. Talking about Egypt versus Argentina, it seemed corrupt. The referees were a bit dodgy, and then it happened again through England v Argentina. They didn't card enough players. Mm-hmm. I don't know. There just seems to be something there.
Yeah, they weren't consistent at all. Yeah, not at all. Like the referee had been told, come on, we want this one to get through. Support this one. We need Argentina, not England. Yeah, did you see when Messi went up? You know, there were 3 refs there, and he went up to them at half time, and it was just like they were chatting and chilled. You're like, come on. You know, everyone knew that England had lost at that point. We can see that we're not winning at all. Why is he so friendly with Messi? Why are they chatting to the refs? You know, there was a bit earlier with the headlock, and he didn't even get a card.
Now that is a conflict of interest, if you ask me. That should not be allowed on the pitch. It's the game.
Yep.
Do you know, I've always thought the Olympics, the World Cup, it's meant to bring people together. Yeah. You know, that sort of spirit of togetherness. Politics should not be involved. Oh, no. Corruption and money, let's put that to one side and focus on the sport of bringing any community together. It's a good point you raised there, actually, because obviously these footballers from different countries, they come to be part of the World Cup. They also had visa issues because of Trump, and it's like, what are you doing? It's the World Cup. Let them in.
Yeah, because was it Iran? Because they couldn't stay, could they? They had to go and stay in Mexico. Then as soon as they finished the game, they had to go back. So it's like, where's their rest? They're athletes. They need more time to recover.
That's politics.
Yeah,
that's
it's not fair.
It should not be involved.
Yeah, it's not fair at all. It's the same like before the game had started. There were so many officials who had their visas denied. Even wasn't it one of the best, refs in the world was denied?
Yeah.
And it's like, you knew this would happen when you allowed the USA to host the games. You know that some can't go in on certain visas, but how are they allowed to fly in and then have to fly straight back again? It's not fair. Like, why are they having so many visas and checks and everything? Why is it the legalities? Like, it should be fair for everyone. You can't say to someone, now you've got to go home. So from the start, it didn't sound right.
So it means nobody trusts America. There's the evidence. It makes America look bad. That's it. I feel so sorry for American people, you know, welcoming the world in, but then having this visa problems and...
But what they say is not what they're doing, is it?
Okay. Now let's focus on the positives. It had, I think the number of teams was expanded. Cape Verde were involved. I never even knew they had a team. Beautiful team. It's so good watching them, such a small country. It's a lovely story. Ghana were there. I was supporting them. Ghana in the 80s, actually. I feel like they're back, because in the 80s they were a cracking team.
I was disappointed with...
I was disappointed as well. Italy. Let's talk about Italy. They're always at the World Cup, and they're not there this time. I was shocked.
I know, that is true. Very true. But there's a country, a little island, Curacao. And I think the game against Germany, that was brilliant. People weren't expecting them to do so well. And then they got that goal.
I agree with that.
And I felt like they were one of the strongest teams. You know, since 2014, you know, you're competing against a really small country, a small island. No one believed in them. They've come to the World Cup. They've scored against Germany, of all teams, and they should have lost. It should have not even got a goal. And they were amazing. I just love how, regardless of the politics, the media attention's been beautiful. Like, I've been looking at clips and thinking, oh, this is brilliant. Like, we've got our normal players like Bellingham and everybody else, but it's just, I think this is the first World Cup where we've been able to see like other players from different countries, like the 19-year-olds, the 20-year-olds, those who are being amazing, just playing so well. They've got the attention and caught the attention of the world. I've got friends who are now chatting about it.
You're right. It's been lovely.
Before they used to be, whatever, but like now they're like, oh yes, I can see this, so that's a massive positive.
Okay, so last question before we have a little pause in proceedings. Next year, it's the Women's World Cup.
Yay, England!
So what do you want to say about next year?
Well, it's for tradition for women to win, so I hope we win again. Well, we've already won, haven't we? Of course. Like, I can see we've won. We've already won, so...
I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned about them at all. Obviously, it's different women next year compared to last time around, different team.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but they're hungry. They're going to put the effort in. They'll be fine.
Yeah, they will be. But I think the culture in the changing rooms with the women, that works well. Like, I hope that they can use that and pocket that up and put it in the game. You know, everything that they do from the changing rooms to training to the match.
Hoping for more teams as well, some more countries. It'd be lovely to see more, you know, just like the World Cup that's just gone. It's expanded, been great.
Hope so.
Okay, let's bring that to a pause. What a wonderful 2 topics we've had today. So now we're going to have a break with an advert from SignWow.